Hello, good afternoon, beautiful souls. I am going to take a deep breath right now. I am a mama. I have two kids at home. I'm homeschooling, and we're having some issues right now, right before I go live, of course. And I don't have a door on my office. So the reality is, you may hear my children, and that's okay. So I'm just going to take a deep breath because it's definitely thrown me off. How are you guys? So, welcome. Welcome to day 2 of day 3 of this tapping into soul experience. If you hop on here live, please say hi. I'll see your comments. And of course, feel free to share any insights, any thoughts, any ahas that come up for you as I'm doing this. Hi, Shannon. Oh, I forgot to link you. So I'm glad you found me today. I was going to do that yesterday. Anyway, welcome to day 2. So if you're catching this live, if you're on the replay, Alexis, hello, you made it. Hi, welcome. Thanks for being here, guys. Tiffany, hi. So nice to see you. So if you're catching this on the replay or live, I'm Angie Mallory. I'm the creator of Journey to Soul. I'm the creator of this beautiful community and space that has just grown into a space that I love to be in, and I love to be held, and I sure as hell hope that you feel the same way. I'm an intuitive spiritual mentor and an EFT tapping practitioner, and really I'm human, man. I am a very human teacher of life. I share my knowledge and wisdom for humanity. I'm super passionate about bringing women together so that we can share knowledge and wisdom because I learn so much from you. And that's why we do these conscious conversations on Sunday with my good friend Natalie. And I just love being in conversation and having these deep discussions about meaningful things in life. I love that. That's me. I'm deep. This series, so let's talk a little bit about this series, Tapping into Soul. This series is about sharing what brings me clarity, so much clarity, so much softness in a hard world. And it really improves my experience within it. And so I have a membership called Tapping into Soul. And in this space, I beta launched it in June. And I've been playing in this space of sharing my heart's deepest learnings, right, and experiences, and playing with that within it. And so now I'm ready to open the doors to that wider, and it's come into a place that I just love. I just love it. And so that's what these 3 days are about. It's about sharing the experiences that I provide within that space. And today we're going to be diving into Buddhist teachings. So Buddhist teachings are what have helped me to evolve in my awareness and my consciousness, and to find deeper meaning in life. Buddhism was first introduced to me probably in my early teens. I think I was about, how old was I? Probably about 19. 19, I went to an alternative high school, and that's where I first learned about it. And it really, really spoke to me. Really spoke to me. Two of the main figures in my youth were Jesus and Buddha. Why? Because they were both lovers of humans, right? They understood humans. This is what I felt from them. They understood humans. They always spoke with love about humans. And Jesus loved even in the face of, torment, atrocity. And Buddha had this endless curiosity about humans, and there's so much to be curious about it. And here's what I observe in life, and I'm sure many of you can relate. I observe that humans hate humans, and it hurts my heart. Like, to hate humans, to hate humans is actually to hate ourselves. And how do you live? I'm going to get emotional. How do you live a life of meaning when you hate humans? Which means you're denying your very nature. You hate yourself, right? And when I was 14, let's talk about, I grew up with trauma, a lot of trauma, and as a child trying to process that, it's really difficult. But what happens is as you come into your teens, you start to understand what actually happened to you. And that's a lot of energy to take on, a lot of knowledge to take on. And what happens is, there was this time in my life when I was a teen, I hated myself. I hated myself, and I didn't want to hate humans, so my heart did not want to hate humans. And so that led to a whole lot of reconciliation. I have had to reconcile, I'm 44 now, I have had to reconcile for 30 years this misalignment, this hating myself, my mind, the thoughts, hating myself, but my heart wanting to love humans, not wanting to hate them, even the ones that hurt me. Right? And so, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't expect to get so emotional. Um, it's an emotional thing. These are the deepest things of my heart I'm sharing with you. And so, the point of Buddhism, let's talk about the point of Buddhism. The point of Buddhism is to relieve suffering, right? We accept we accept that there is pain and suffering in this human experience. If you haven't heard me say it before, everything I teach from is this knowing. I have come into the knowing, and I know it with full faith and certainty that we are spiritual beings in physical form. We chose to come down here at this time, very specifically at this time on earth, right? And we chose to be in this human experience. And Buddhism doesn't deny that human experience. Buddhism embraces the whole thing. To be human is to have pain and suffering, okay? But it is also to have brilliance. It is also to have such beautiful, tangible experiences that you can't have in spirit form. Right? There's so many different ways we can look at this. I'm not even going to go there. There's so many different ways. I would love to have this conversation with anyone. But we accept, right? But in Buddhism, it is accepted that there is pain and suffering in this human experience. And so what we learn through the teachings is to lean into the suffering. What is the human response? The human response is to cling to pleasure and to avoid pain. And these are two extremes, right? The ego wants to cling to what feels good, right? And it turns into craving, and it turns into addiction, right? We want to cling to it. It creates suffering, though. That clinging is creating suffering in our experience. And then we want to avoid. We want to back away from what doesn't feel good, right? And we get really, really, really crafty. We get really, really crafty at I'm sorry, I got distracted. Tiffany, did you mean to request to come on? I saw that it said that you wanted to come on. I mean, I'm totally happy to bring you on, but I don't know if that was an accident. Okay, so yeah, we get really crafty at avoiding. What happens is we've become really manipulative with ourselves, with our mind. Our minds have become really manipulative in avoidance. Right? And how many of you can relate to that? I'm sure many of you can relate to that. And so it's it's an accident. I thought so. That's okay. I'm happy to have the conversation though. Okay, let me get back to my notes here. Yeah, so we learn how to lean into suffering. These teachings teach us how to lean into suffering. I'm getting ahead of myself. I know that's further in my notes. So what's not helpful? Here's what's not helpful that we do, right? And it's very human to do this. But it's not helpful to pile. We pile shame, we pile guilt, we pile blame, right? On top of the pain of being human. So let's talk, the pain of being human is the hard enough. Can we agree on that? Yeah. We only create more separation when we do this. We create more separation in ourselves, in the world, right? When we beat ourselves up for doing exactly what humans do. And so Buddhism, I find there's so much acceptance. There's so much softness in being human. Out there in the world, it's not that way. And again, we could deep dive into that conversation because there are people that seek to control us, right? And they understand this stuff. They understand this stuff. And that's why I'm so passionate about people getting curious. Get curious about this stuff. Stop dismissing it, because that is the programming. That is the conditioning to turn your head away from this stuff, to label Buddhism religion and nope, not going to fucking look at that. Right? And the truth is, this is teaching us to lean into suffering and accept that there's suffering, because when you resist, you create more of it in your life. What you resist persists. There's that saying, right? And so when we learn to lean in, what happens is we start to look at what is actually going on, right? Tiffany says, you must let in before you can let go. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Oh, Tiffany, I would love to sit and chat with you, because I know that you're doing some really cool things and heading down this path of death doula. And oh, I'm sure you have so many beautiful insights that you could share. Yeah, that's so beautiful. You must let in before you can let go. Yeah, you do. You have to lean in. Awareness, if you're not aware of what actually is, you can't change. You can't change, not in the long term, not sustainably, right? So, yeah, when we do this, we beat ourselves up for doing what humans do. We create more separation, which is in turn creating more suffering in our life. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is also inevitable, but we can lessen our suffering. We can ease the suffering and build more of what we want. We did this yesterday in day one. We can create and move that out and change our experience and change the experience of others as well, should they take the opportunity. So today we're going to talk about Tonglen practice, which is both a teaching and a practice. And we're going to talk about a Lojong slogan. So, that's what we're going to cover today. And this, what do these slogans do? It offers us instructions, both the practice and the slogan. It offers us instructions on how to meet humanity where it is at, how to meet your humanity where it is at, to connect with the roots. You know, we talk a lot about, in this world today, we talk a lot about how it's not working because we're addressing symptoms. We're putting band-aids on everything and trying to put up fires, right? And that doesn't work. You have to get to the root. And so Tonglen practice actually allows us to get to the root of pain and suffering. These teachings give us instructions on how to get to the root, because it is at the root that you can build strong awareness. And once the awareness is there, you're now empowered. You have choice. You have choice. Do you want to continue? Do you want to continue knowing now that it's not so solid as you think, that it's not as big a deal as you think? Do you want to continue with this experience, right? And there is no right or wrong. Maybe you do want to continue. Maybe your soul needs you to continue because it is part of your learning, right? We all have unique paths here. And so that's what I love about Buddhism. Buddhism meets us where we are at. It meets us in the hot mess of this life, right? Let's admit it. There's all different areas. We all have different areas of our life where it is a hot mess, where we reject it, we deny it, we don't want to look at it. It's painful, right? So wouldn't it be helpful to have instructions to lean into that pain? Is it easy? No, of course it's not comfortable. Growth isn't comfortable. We're here to grow. We're here to grow. We're here to learn how to love, even though we live in this mess, right? We're learning how to love. And many of us are doing it. And it's not easy. And where is the benevolence in ignoring that and shoving that under the rug? We already know that hasn't worked. It's, that's what our parents have done. That's what our ancestors have done. And it hasn't worked. It all has to come out eventually. And we're seeing this now on a mass scale too. So these Lojong slogans that I teach in my membership, I love them. There's 50, I can't remember, 56 slogans, I think. And they come on, they come on cards. They're little cards and they're teaching. And I teach them once a week, 3 times a month. And what do they do? Yeah, they teach us about the ego. That's something I really love. I love ego. I love teaching about ego and understanding ego. I had a really big interest in that, again, when I was like 19. They teach us how to use the ways that the ego objectifies, how it avoids, how it clings to, how it resists and it numbs out in this life. It teaches us how to take those things and use them as the very tools that awaken us. You know the saying, everything is within you? Everything is within us. I used to get really pissed off at that because I'd be like, yeah, that's great. What does that mean? Right? Everything is within you. But it doesn't seem that way, does it? In reality, we don't actually need anything outside of us, right? And so what do these teachings do? They actually instruct us how to go within. It always points us back in. It points us back in. It shows us how to find what it is we need to awaken. And what it is we need to not be at the surface level. We need to get to the root. We need to go deeper, right? I've been intense for some people in my life because I'm a super deep thinker. And people don't want to think deep because it's uncomfortable. And I totally understand that, right? And so now we're at this time in the world where I realize people need to go deep. There's all kinds of opportunities and lessons and teachings, not just Lojong slogans, that are asking us to go deeper. Go into the pain, go into the discomfort, because for your freedom is on the other side of that. And your freedom is totally worth it. I take a deep breath. Getting super passionate. Okay. Yeah. So it is to learn how to transform our suffering into the very wisdom that moves us forward, that we share with others. When we turn our suffering into wisdom, we become the teachers, the educators, the way showers, right? We shine the light for others to also come out of their suffering, because everyone is suffering. Every single person. You have that in common with every single human. So while you might think you're separate from the murderer, right? It is suffering. There is a root of suffering that led to whatever they did, whatever actions they took. And these teachings teach you about that. Okay, we begin to see things in our life as we practice this more and more and apply this in our life. We begin to see that we begin to see things not as problems that we need to fix. How many of you are problem solvers? This is like my number one skill in the world, in the real world, in the 3D world, I guess, whatever. Yeah, I'm a problem solver. We see everything as something that's broken that needs to be fixed. And if that's what you're seeking, you will find it every single freaking time out there. You will, right? But what happens is we start to see things as tools to create opportunities for us to see our own wisdom, to witness our own humanity, to see our connection to it all, and to open our heart to it, to ourselves. And when you open your heart to yourselves, you open your heart to everybody else. All right, so let's talk about Tonglen. So Tonglen is both a teaching and a practice. There's 2 slogans that focus on Tonglen practice, meditation. It's a meditation. Maybe not meditation the way your mind might think about it. Meditation is just being conscious, right, in life, being conscious in the moment, in the present moment. And we are always breathing. Breath is always available to us as long as we're living, right? And so Tong is a Tibetan word for sending out. And then Len is a Tibetan word for receiving, okay? And so it is this slogan, I'm going to tell you the first slogan, is sending and taking should be practiced alternately These two should ride on the breath. So what does this mean? Again, we don't deny our humanity. It's not all light and love. Okay? To act like it's just light and love and just send out good wishes and that's it, and that's all we need to do in this life, we're not coming into balance. We're not addressing the dark. We're not connecting with that part of humanity. So we're not connecting with it within ourselves as well, right? So that's what it's saying. It should be practiced alternately. So breath is always in and out. And so when you practice Tonglen with your breath, you are always doing both. You're sending out and you're taking in, right? So remember I talked about clinging. The ego wants to cling to pleasure and it wants to avoid what doesn't feel good, right? And so we have to do both, send out what's great so that we're sharing it with others, and we have to take in what isn't great so that we're carrying the load with others too. And, you know, something about that practice, what is it about it that I love? We're powerful. That's actually one of the things I'm devoted to sharing with people and teaching people and walking them through. We are powerful beings. And we won't know that. We won't know that until we experience how powerful we are. Right? Alexis, yes, fixer over here. Yeah, I'm totally a fixer. It's in my nature. It's in our nature, many of us, especially moms, especially women, especially moms. It's very ingrained in culture, right? So that's what we learn. Okay, so this is instruction for a meditation practice called Tonglen. This is a commentary on the back of the card. In this practice, you send out happiness to others and you take in the suffering that others feel. And you take it in with a sense of openness and compassion, and then you send it out in the same spirit. People need help, right? We know this. And with this practice, we extend ourselves out to them, right? This practice of breathing in, let's do this. What's suggested is there is suffering in the world. Everyone is suffering, okay? So we're going to start this practice with everyone. We're going to send out our love and our healing from the heart, right? Do you want love and healing for humans? Do you want it for yourself? If you want it for yourself, then we want it for every human, because if every human has love and healing, we are every human. We also receive love and healing. Okay? And then we breathe in their pain and sickness. There's so much disease, so much suffering in the physical world. So we breathe in, and then there's emotional and mental suffering, right? We breathe in their pain. Why do we breathe in their pain? Because we have that pain too. And if we are willing to bring their pain in and transmute it in our heart, we don't have to do the work. If you were here yesterday, we talk about we don't have to do the work if we're willing to allow divine love to flow through us as a channel. If we're willing to allow, it's always available to us. And when you allow divine love to do the work, it does the work for you. So there's nothing to be afraid of to breathe in. It's counterintuitive to breathe in suffering and pain. We don't want to do that. We want to send light and love out, right? But you have to have both, guys, the yin and the yang. You have to do both to find balance. So I'm going to invite you guys to just tune into your breath, settle into your body. Start following your breath in and out. And you can put your hand on your heart, or just put your attention on your heart space. We have a higher heart chakra, which is up here in the chest. Divine love flows through here. And maybe just take a moment in your body to feel, what does divine love feel like in my body? And poke around, notice. It's okay if there's any kind of tension. Sometimes we'll have tension in the back of the heart because we have a hard time receiving. And that's okay. It's all feedback. It's all just information to help you. So on your next inhale, I want you to breathe in pain and suffering of humans. Maybe you imagine it black and smoky. And then you're going to breathe out love and healing. And you're imagining this come from your heart. Just maybe imagine it going around the whole world, the earth. Breathing in pain and suffering. We're going to do 10 breaths like this. At your own pace, breathing out love and healing. Breathing in the darkness and suffering of all humans. Breathing out love, happiness, peace. Breathing in mental, emotional, physical suffering. Allowing divine love to transmute it. Breathing out the wish for love and peace for all humans, yourself included. Breathing in pain and suffering. Breathing out love and peace and healing. I've lost count. Breathing in pain and suffering of all humans. And breathing out love and healing for all humans. Breathing in the pain and suffering of the human condition. Breathing out what you want to see for humans, peace, love. Even if you don't believe there are humans that can reach for peace and love, just breathe it out anyway. You don't have to control anything. People will access that energy or not. Breathing in pain and suffering. And again, breathing out love and healing. Imagining that you're putting this energy out into the world with this silent invitation to humans to reach for it. All right, I think that was about 10. And just notice, take a moment to just notice, how does that feel in your body? There could be resistance. Love yourself for it. It's okay. It's counterintuitive. We are programmed, we are conditioned to avoid pain, cling to pleasure, okay? If you have grown up or are in Christian culture, you're already accustomed to breathing out. Maybe not with the breath specifically, but sending out light and love, prayers for humanity, right? Praying for people you care about, praying for all of humans. But maybe you're not accustomed to breathing in the pain and suffering. And this is because we have been taught that we are not powerful. We are powerful. When we are connected to Source, when we are connected to that divine Source energy, whether you call that God, the universe, just an energy, it's an energy. Everything is energy. And when you allow that divine love to work through you, it does the work. It transmutes the pain and suffering. And can you imagine? So let's talk about the next teaching. The next teaching is begin the sequence of sending and taking with yourself. So I just focused on all of humanity, right? We can use Tonglen in that general way for all of humanity. And when we go deeper into the teaching, we understand that we are connected to everything. We are connected to everything. And so we start to it feels vulnerable to lean into our own suffering. It feels a little less vulnerable to lean into the suffering of all humans, right? Energetically. So, slogan 10 talks about begin the sequence of sending and taking with yourself. And so now I want to connect this just a little deeper for you. Okay? Whatever pain you feel, so in this moment, if I'm feeling anxiety, right? Take that in. Breathe in your anxiety. But when you breathe in your anxiety, you are having an intention of wishing for all beings to be free of anxiety. Because if you don't want your anxiety anymore, we need to get rid of it on the earth plane. We need to get rid of this energy, this consciousness. We need to dissolve this consciousness on the earth plane. Because as long as it's there, you have these unconscious patterns and habits that reach for anxiety. So if it's there for you to reach for, just like I had you send out love and healing for humans if they want to reach for it. They are free-willed beings. They may not reach for it. That doesn't mean that you're helpless. Because there, for every one that doesn't want to reach for it, I guarantee there's at least two that want it. And so if you're intentionally putting that energy out there, then they might reach for it. It will be more accessible to them, okay? So this is the same thing. If we're feeling anxiety in this moment, on that breath, I can just be aware I'm feeling anxiety, breathe it in. And I wish for all humans to be free of anxiety. And then you breathe out. What is it that you want to feel instead of anxiety? Maybe you want to feel ease. Maybe you want to feel calm. Maybe you want to feel peace. Whatever it is, you breathe that out to all humans because you want that. You want it, but you don't want to cling to it. The ego will cling to it. You don't want to cling to it. You want to take what's good and what you want and send it out to all of humanity, because when you do that, universal law applies and it comes back to you amplified. So I hope this is making sense. Let me know if you have any questions at all. But this is such a powerful practice. And I do this if I'm I'm often getting triggered by my children. We all are moms, right? And so if I'm having a moment of suffering, I'm getting anger is rising up, well, I'm going to breathe in my anger and I'm going to wish for all beings, all humans to be free of anger. And I'm going to send out calm, maybe even detachment. So I'm not so attached to the anger. And I'm going to send it out for all humans. And something happens in this practice. I'm telling you, something happens where you start to connect. You start to recognize that someone that you felt so separate from, something happens where you start to see or know that that person, although they're behaving in a way that you're judging, right? And we're all judging, it's okay, because we've been told certain things are right and wrong, right? And so I'm judging the way that you are expressing yourself, but I can now understand that at the root of that might be anger. And if I wish for all humans to be free of anger, maybe in your own journey, you might reach for that energy too. Maybe you'll reach for the calm. Alexis, it seems so simple to share that wish of love and peace with others, and it's also relaxing. It's so relaxing. Yeah, sometimes I just tune into my breath and I do that when I want to be mindful, when I want to, I'm a busy person, so I don't want to sit down and meditate. I resist that a lot. And this to me is living meditation. It is living meditation, and it's connecting us to compassion. Another way that we use Tonglen too is for the people that we love and we know. So my brother is somebody who suffers very much, right? And he lives in a lot of shame and a lot of blame and victimhood. And so can I relate to that? Absolutely. I used to think oh my God, I'd make such a big deal out of the way he behaves like a victim. And then as I started doing this practice, I started to realize where I play victim too in my life. And then you start to realize there's the exact same root of suffering he and I have, but we're on different paths. He's at a different stage in his path. I'm at a different stage, but I can connect on this feeling of victimhood. I'm a victim. And so I breathe in, I'm a victim. And I wish all beings to be free of victimhood. And I send out hope. And I send out faith. Maybe I send out divine connection, whatever it is. Right? And we can do this. So we can do this for ourselves. We can do this for people. We can do this for people we don't like. In fact, that's the invitation to practice. Which that's jumping ahead. Anyway, in this way, our personal problems and delights become a stepping stone for understanding the suffering and happiness of all beings. And we start to realize everybody wants this. And we start to call in people we love. We start to call in people suffering, the people we don't know, right? We just did it for all of humans, right? And this practice is so beautiful. And if you make this a daily practice, it shifts. It shifts your energy. It shifts your thinking. It reprograms the brain to lean into that suffering. And we start to gather evidence that it's not so scary to lean into suffering. And beautiful things can occur because of it. So let's do another little sequence of sending and taking. And we're going to do it with ourselves. I want you to call up. Call up what suffering you've been experiencing lately. For me, it's been anger. I'm not comfortable with anger. And so I've been doing a lot of this practice with myself because there's a lot of anger in the world. I see that. Right? And that's why I don't like it. I'm triggered by it because I won't face my own anger. And so now I'm going to breathe in. So whatever it is for you, you're going to breathe that into your heart. I'm breathing in anger, frustration, and I'm wishing for all humans to be free of anger and frustration. And then breathing out calm and detachment. Calm and space actually is what feels right. Calm and space. Wishing all beings have access to calm and space. Breathing in anger and frustration, wishing all beings to be free of it. Breathing out calm, space, ease. Wishing for all beings to have access to it. Breathing in my anger and frustration. Wishing all humans be free of anger and frustration in their days. Breathing out calm, peace that I want. Wishing for all beings to have access to it. Breathing in anger and frustration, wishing for all humans to be free of this. Breathing out more calm and ease. And breathing in anger and frustration for all humans. Breathing out my desire for calm and ease. Wishing that that's the experience of most humans. Breathing in this suffering of frustration and anger that I'm experiencing. Wishing for all humans that are experiencing this in this moment to be free of it. I'm breathing out calm and ease for each of those humans that are experiencing that right now. And so, Tiffany, that's a really good question, Tiffany. How do you detach the ramifications of law of attraction if you are breathing in suffering? Is it transmutation? Yes. So the answer is yes, it's transmutation. We are so powerful. And this is, there's interesting programming in the world, in this world that we live in, around law of attraction. Law of attraction is exactly why people are so afraid of the dark. They're so afraid to create more of the dark. And this is a fear around how that we're not powerful, right? And there's this programming in it that we're not powerful. And we are so powerful. When we call in this divine love, the divine love does the transmutation. And our intention is actually what's amplified. We have this intention to create more peace, right? More peace available to humans in the world. That amplifies coming back to us. I love that you brought this up because this is exactly what stops people from doing this. And universal, I'm actually going to be training to be a universal laws coach because universal law is so important. And law of attraction is just one piece of the puzzle, right? Like attracts like, yes, but your intention is actually more powerful than this action of breathing in the darkness with the intention of transmuting it. I hope that answers your question, Tiffany. Let me know. Alexis, being empathic, I feel maybe it's helpful to observe the dark or negative energy rather than take it in. Yeah, and that's resistance that's showing up, and that absolutely understandable. One thing to understand about empathy, so and being empathic is a label too that has been given to us. And what happens is in these Lojong trainings, there are trainings that focus specifically, they're called absolute bodhicitta training, slogan or teachings. And these teachings actually teach us about how things are not actually solid. And so this empathic label comes attached with all these fixed ideas. And those fixed ideas are actually not solid. We've created them to be solid. The ego, when I say we, I mean the ego, has created it to be a very solid thing. And then what happens is we start to filter things through this label that we've given it, or these fixed ideas, and they don't serve us. They don't serve us. And so that is the resistance that will happen, that it feels helpful to observe the dark or negative energy rather than take it in. And this is why it's a practice. What happens is we are awakening our heart. We have put a like a metal shield around our hearts because our experiences have taught us that there's pain. There's pain, and we don't know what to do with that pain. And so what we do is we just keep protecting. And it's our heart that moves us forward in our path of awakening. We're here to learn how to unconditionally love humans, because when we unconditionally love humans, we love ourselves. And when you connect with the beings in the unseen, right? Our ancestors, these are people that have passed over in our lives that we share, soul family with. When we're not in this life, we have soul family groups. We also have light beings. We have ascended masters, so that would be like Buddha and Jesus. They lived on this earth. They've lived this experience. They've turned their suffering into wisdom, and then they help us from the unseen, and they share their energy, their light energy with us. These beings love us unconditionally. And that was something I didn't share on day one. And day one, I was talking about oracle cards and why I love them. And it's because that wisdom that comes through, this higher wisdom, it is coming from beings that absolutely love us. We do no right or wrong in their eyes. And so they are supporting us and teaching us how to accept that within ourselves, right? And so always do what's most comfortable for you. When it comes to Tonglen, maybe it's more comfortable just to take in the general. That's why we start with general suffering. of humans. We're just breathing in the general suffering of humans, and then breathing out love and healing for humans. Right? This is how we create the new consciousnesses that we want on this earth. What does that new experience look like for you? Is it collaboration? Is it love? Is it gratitude? Is it peace? Peace is something I always reach for. Peace is something our nervous system is just freaking crying for, right? And so breathing out peace for all humans in whatever you're feeling. If you're feeling shame, maybe it's peace you want to feel, whatever it is, right? So yeah, yes, it is true. It is a label. Yeah, empathic is a label, and the ego clings to it. So this is the ego clinging, right? And the ego wants us to resist. So both things are happening here that you're talking about. There's the clinging to being empathic, and it's, it clings to it because you feel understood, you feel heard. When you learn about, being an empath, you're like, oh my God, that freaking describes me. Somebody understands me. And we have this desire to be understood. We have this desire to be accepted. Right? And so there's this label that's given, and those that seek to control us know this, and they give us these words, and they know that we're going to cling to them. Right? Tiffany, sorry, delayed response. Baby, yes, answered very eloquently. Thank you. I'm glad that makes sense. I'm so glad you brought it up, though, because that is exactly what stops people from doing this kind of practice. And this practice awakens our heart. So that's why I was really, really, really passionate about sharing this with people. So again, here's the invitation. The invitation in this practice. When you practice Tonglen for others this week, I want you to think about, choose someone that's a little bit out of your comfort zone. Okay. They're not your worst enemy. Don't choose that. Right? Choose someone that you know personally, and maybe you just don't like them. Maybe you don't like their behavior. Maybe you judge their behavior. Take someone like that and start trying to connect to their pain and suffering. Like you might, I think it's very easy to pick someone right now who might be living in fear. I don't live in fear. And don't get me wrong. I don't, with what's going on out there, I mean, I don't live in fear with that. Okay. I have lots of fears. I have tons of fears. I had fears coming up before I got on this call. I have lots of fears. So don't ever think that. I'm very human. And, but let's take somebody out there that's living in fear, and that fear, you can see that fear is driving their behavior. And this behavior might feel like, I don't like this behavior. They're hurting people, they're hurting me, right? And can you connect though with the fear? Can you breathe in that person's fear? And wishing for all beings to be free of fear. And as you do this, you start to realize, like, I have fear too. And fear doesn't have it doesn't have to have labels, right? The fear that they are projecting, that's a story. It's been created by the mind. The judgment has been created by the mind. So when we start to look at fear at the root, they are experiencing fear, and this is how it's expressing. I am experiencing fear, and this is how it's expressing. And can we come into acceptance that although our ways of expressing are very different, can I connect with that fear and wish for all beings to be free of it? Right? And then, someone you know personally that you dislike. And at the end of each breath, here's the second part, another deeper part of this teaching, okay? We can keep going deeper and deeper in these teachings. Tiffany, Teal Swan, yes, oh, I love her, talks about empathy as a protecting mechanism. Yes, it makes a lot of sense. It is. It is. If we're empathic, it stops us taking on the label of empathic, stops us from taking responsibility for our power, if that makes sense. Yeah, I really love Teal Swan. She teaches so much about the ego. So I really appreciate her teachings. I've learned a lot from her. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let's go a little deeper into the teaching. So when you are doing this practice, remembering the ego clings to pleasure and it, revolts or revolts, yeah, whatever. It avoids pain. Okay? At the end of each breath that you take, drop whatever it is you have breathed in. So this might help you as well in this resistance to taking in darkness, to taking in suffering. Okay? So what you do is you're breathing in the fear and breathing out peace, right? Or love. And then you're letting it go. You're putting your intention to dropping it, letting it go, remembering that divine love has taken care of the transmutation. And this is called keeping a light touch. There is a teaching around this as well, around keeping a light touch, touching everything lightly, not clinging, being very aware of that clinging nature or that avoidant nature. So that is my invitation to you for Tonglen, is to take somebody. And if that isn't comfortable, there's no rules here, guys. If that's not comfortable, do the general one. Just do general suffering of humans and breathing out peace for the world. Okay? Or do it for yourself in every moment if you notice having something. Thank you for this practice. This is the 4th time that I've heard reference to Tonglen, which is telling me to dig deeper. Absolutely. Yeah, I felt the same way. It kept coming up for me too. And that's when I realized there was something here that was big. All right, so what are we at? We're at 12:52. Okay, so I'm going to share another teaching with you. That went way deeper than I expected with the Tonglen. Like Tonglen was a practice, but I went into the teaching of it. But the other slogan that I wanted to share with you, this is another one, and it's called Rest in the Nature of Alaya, the Essence. There is a resting place, a starting place that you can always return to. You can always bring your mind back home and rest right here, right now, in the present, in unbiased awareness. So this is a fairly simple teaching. What it's talking about, this slogan is talking about, we can learn to let thoughts go. There's several teachings around learning how to let thoughts go. And just rest our mind in this natural state. It's called alaya. I think that's how it's pronounced. In Buddhism, it's called alaya. And this word it means the open primordial basis of all production, of all phenomena. There's another teaching that talks about the production. There's this, I have a seat. I have this chair that I imagine, and this is what I sit back into. When I start to feel like I'm overwhelmed and I'm in the drama of whatever is happening, right, in my reality, I find space and I lean back into this chair. It's all very detailed, my chair, right? And I sit back into this chair and I let go of my senses, little by little. I let go of what I'm seeing. I let go of what I'm hearing. I let go of what I'm tasting. I let go of what I'm smelling. I let go of what my body is feeling. I let go of my conscious mind. And I let go of my unconscious mind. That's repeating patterns. That's habitual. And that might seem hard, okay? This is called the sevenfold path. But what happens is when you let go and you sit back into the seat, you start to realize there's this production that happens. You start to notice that the thoughts start creating more stories and more things. And then your senses start to get involved, right? You start to feel triggered. You start to hear something that they're not saying. You start to see their body language, right? And it turns into this big drama. And so this slogan is just teaching us that there is this space that you can return to over and over and over again. And you can rest in that space. And when you choose that, when you choose to rest in this space, the illusion starts to dissolve. Whatever is going on actually just starts to dissolve into nothingness, which is where it came from. So what does that mean? We can rest in this fundamental openness And what happens is we can become the observer, right? We enjoy the display of whatever's arising, and we learn to not make a big deal out of it. When we are in that place, we don't make a big deal out of it. That's the point. We don't make a big deal out of it when we sit there. So if you think that everything is solid, that's a trap. Again, the ego clings and the ego avoids. Okay? So if you think that everything is solid, it's a trap. And then if you change that, right? You start to change that belief system because you've learned something, right? That becomes another trap because the ego will now start to try to cling to that. And all we want to do is have awareness of it. And this seat, this nature, this essence where we can sit in ourselves, it allows us to kind of pull the rug out from under us, pull the rug out from belief systems altogether, because thoughts are actually illusory in nature. We create them as solid, but they're not solid. And so this practice of being able to sit back into your essence allows you to understand that and see that and stop clinging to beliefs. We can do that by letting go of our beliefs and also our sense of what is right or wrong. So that's the other benefit of this teaching, is understanding when we can sit back like that in this space, this peace, we've let go of these consciousnesses. We're not engaging anymore with what's happening, right? What happens is we start to see things from this higher perspective where everything is not right or wrong, it's just an experience, right? We go back to the simplicity of the immediacy of the moment, the present moment. This is our present experience, and we are resting in the nature of Alaya. I hope this makes sense. So this is not an action. There's no action here to do. We're not doing. This is what we're trained to, so it might feel uncomfortable to do this. What is happening, we're actually just simply returning to pure awareness. We're simply returning to who we actually are, that spirit that is in this body, right? It's this pure awareness of source. We are source, and we return to that, and source doesn't see right or wrong. The universe doesn't see right or wrong. It's all energy, right? And so just know that this is available to you at all times. It's always there, always. We are free-willed beings, so we have to choose it, right? And so it's always available to us. When we begin to notice the impulse to constantly think, right? You'll feel the urge, you'll feel the impulse, right? When we begin to notice it, right? To keep the mind moving, to keep the body moving, we remind ourselves to return to this place of stillness. I don't know if that made sense. Did that even make sense? I don't know if that made sense, guys. I'm sorry if it didn't. These are really they're ancient teachings too, so you try to translate it so that it's relatable, and sometimes it's really hard to do. Okay, so when we begin to notice the impulse to constantly think, to keep the mind moving, to keep the body moving. Oh, so this is what the ego does, right? The mind starts to constantly think. The mind wants to keep moving and noticing and paying attention to everything. And, especially if you've had trauma in your life, you're hypervigilant, right? You can notice everything in a second, right? That's all your senses working, right? On autopilot. Not in a good way. And we want to keep our body moving. We get antsy, right? We have to remind ourselves this is all the action is. It's just reminding ourselves there's this place of stillness I can sit in. And then observe from there. Observe. So that is the teaching. Rest in the nature of Alaya, the essence. I just want you to know that there is a space always available to you of stillness. And the more and more time you spend in it, the more and more you experience space in your life, in your physical life. So when you feel the spaciousness of this a nature within you, it starts to reflect outwards, and it doesn't matter what's going on around you. You'll be able to sit in it and let go of all your senses. This is all practice. This is why in order to teach this, This is how the membership was born. I was like, how do I teach all of this? Because it requires time, it requires practice. And so a membership container made so much sense. So within this membership, I teach this. Anyone that comes into the membership now, all the teachings are available in there on video. But I teach 3 times a week one of the slogans as we move through this. That membership is Tapping into Soul. It's $44 a month. I love what it's become. I'm really excited to start sharing it more openly. So if that resonates, I'll be sharing more about it tomorrow for day 3, which is at 1 o'clock. And we're going to be doing a healing circle. I do gratitude and intention circles once a week in the membership. And what we are doing is we are sharing each other's gratitude, because sharing gratitude, sitting in gratitude is a very high vibration. It's one of the highest vibrations you can reach with love. And when we intentionally create that vibration of gratitude within our bodies and amplify it out, it comes back tenfold. Okay. And then intentions are very important to guide the energy of our week and put out our intentions. Because when you leave it to chance, it usually doesn't work in your best interest. Intention helps you direct your energy for the week. And so what we're going to be doing is doing that in circle with each other, sharing our gratitude. And I am an EFT tapping practitioner, so we will be tapping to move that energy and anchor it into our body, the gratitude and the intention. And there's something that very powerful that happens when we share each other's gratitude and speak each other's gratitude and intentions. We amplify its effects, and we also relate again with each other. And that's the mission here, man. We're moving into unity, not separation anymore. So I hope you can be there. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you're here on the replay, please share your comments. I will get back to them. And I love you. I love you all. I love humans. I want to love humans. And I don't love all humans, but I teach what I need in my life. And so I hope this has helped you. Bye. Have a wonderful day. You're welcome, Alexis.